Riley.
Hey.
Keeping it simple this week.
Is it because we couldn't think of anything else?
Do we have to think of anything else?
I don't know. I mean, I guess everyone unanimously loves when we say each other's name at the start of an episode. I just don't know what the hell other podcasts do when they start episodes. Do they say each other's names and greet each other formally, or do they just start talking?
Yeah.
We should do the Marin. If I remember correctly, he'd be like, yeah, I saw Dom DeLuise at the Hollywood Improv, and then Patrick Wilson would be like, oh my God, you knew Dom DeLuise? Wait, are we recording? You know what I'm saying? Do you know that strategy?
Always be recording.
Yeah. You want to just start doing that?
Yeah, just the second we sit down, we'll start recording, and then everyone will hear about how my cat had shit all over his paws, and I was scrambling around the house, putting him in the bathtub, and then he tried to climb on me, and then I had to wash my robe.
I'm so sorry. You said he knew not what he did, right?
No clue.
He had no clue that he had gone to that he made a mess all around your house. I'm so sorry that happened. But Norman, he's just adjusting to life at your wonderful house, and he wants to take a shit, at sometimes.
Yeah, he's like raised by wolves. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, for the Little Turtle Cuties and Villa Rosa VIPs, you're getting this probably on a Friday. You're going to be like, oh my God, what the hell is going on with the Turtle Time schedule? It's because Amy and I are recording 2 episodes this week. And as Amy and I very rarely ever do, we're recording in the morning. So Amy and I have that wonderful, buoyant morning energy that people have, right?
100%.
So I hope of course. So we hope you grab a cup of coffee or take a late lunch or whatever and listen to Turtle Time, because this is going to have that beautiful morning energy that you have not come to expect from Turtle Time. Yes.
But yeah, we woke up to some sort of shocking Southern Charm news via Instagram story notes app version of a post by JT.
Yes.
He's out. He's done.
He's out. Well, let's remind everybody about JT, because even though you and I know him so well, inside and out, because we recapped Southern Charm, maybe not everybody remembers, but Southern Charm had this man named JT, and he came out like a wrecking ball on Southern Charm. He owned a bunch of Airbnbs that were secretly like places where you, like speakeasies during COVID, where you can get drunk and disobey all the laws of COVID in Charleston. And then also he just kind of wanted to be an antagonist to the Austin dynamic, where Austin can kiss people and get away with it. He was sort of like he had the knight in shining armor of Southern Charm philosophy that he's like, you're the god of all fuckboys, Austin, and I'm going to give you an exorcism. So get over here and let me exorcise this demon from you. So that was kind of his mentality. And right. I will say he made a significant impact on the show. A little, you know what I mean? I mean, it was like, this is a big deal. JT is the first, cast member that kind of had a prominent place on this cast. He made a name for himself. He got into a physical altercation with Austin at Whitney's beautiful bar. Do you remember that? When Whitney had that
Yeah, when he was standing on the bar stool to be as tall as him.
And he was spinning around, and remember Austin was like, stop spinning around in that bar stool in my face. You're getting me aggravated. And that's when JT headbutted Austin in the face. And then it ended. But anyway, that's like JT in a nutshell. And you and I mean, you could argue that maybe JT wasn't the best, like, example of a Southern gentleman or whatever he was trying to be. He was kind of saying that a lot, but you might say his actions didn't really sync up with that or whatever. He also had a little bit of a secret ticking time bomb energy, if I remember correctly. Like, you could totally imagine if you heard, like, when we found out that JT in the trailer, he called Patricia that horrible word. And you're like, oh, I could kind of imagine that would happen. But anyway, all this to say that this is unprecedented for me personally, I think, where a cast member has said, I'm quitting. But also, not only am I quitting the show, but I'm not going to do the remaining 2 to 3 confessionals. I obviously won't be at the reunion. You're basically quitting, not halfway through production, but like 75% of the way through production. That's
right. Yeah.
A big deal.
Yeah, they're not done filming yet.
No, think
I thought
about
it was just confessionals, but Yeah, if it's the
Well,
reunion too, then that's
oh
fine.
yeah, because the reunion. I mean, I would assume unless they can convince him back, but the reunion won't film until a month after the episodes the season's going to be done. So
Right.
I'd assume he's fully quitting. So they're going to have this like confessional with just an outline of JT that they're trying to pan to on Southern Charm. So then you have to ask, why would someone make this unprecedented move?
Right.
What did you do? And I will say, since this first came out, the Southern Charm universe ecosystem is responding to the JT news. I sent this. Madison LaCroix posted a story that said it was the Taylor Swift song, and it said the smallest man that ever lived. And I don't want to be too offensive or whatever, but you could imagine that Madison was posting that, like, responding to the news.
Right.
And Vanita. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
There was another guy who I don't even know who he is yet, but the new cast member also posted like a Taylor Swift karma thing.
Do you think he said something horrible about Taylor Swift? And they had
why is it all agreed upon to do Taylor Swift? I don't know.
So my first thought, you tell me your theory, but my first thought, without thinking about it too much, but knowing that this is the reaction from them, knowing that JT was a little bit of is it offensive to say a hothead?
I don't think so.
Hothead? I thought the way the season was going and how JT navigated it was almost too much for him to bear when he found out maybe there were some repercussions for his actions this season. Maybe there was a narrative forming that he wanted to get ahead of. But I just thought that he probably was flopping like a fish in some capacity. And instead of doing his, being a professional and finishing out the season. I mean professional in terms of like it's your contract. I don't mean like you're unprofessional. I just mean instead of finishing out the season, he decided to nip this thing in the bud. I'm more powerful than you. I'm not going to let this reality TV show ruin my life. I don't even need this shit. And disrespectfully left the Southern Charm universe. That was my thought. But how do you feel? Alternate theory.
Yeah, he seems. I scrolled through his Instagram after this because I don't usually follow him, and he seems to be going through an interesting era. He went to some like retreat that I won't compare it to Louis on New Jersey's retreat, but he went on like a yoga wellness retreat in Costa Rica where he was like riding horses and like he's trying to rebuild himself. And then I know that he's been posting a lot about his diabetes journey and he's trying to like change his health and he like lost a bunch of weight and like he does have a sort of crazed look
about him. Okay, so maybe after the season ended, you know how Shep, like once the season ends, he like goes on a trip or whatever. Yeah. Maybe he went to Costa Rica and he went to that. What was Louis' retreat called? Men of Honor?
It's something like that.
What was? Oh my God, I'm going to be so mad at myself for not remembering what Louis' thing was. But maybe he did go to one of those like scream in the woods, primal therapy, and then he was like, "Whoa, I realized that reality television is not good for me." But then I don't think you can go on that trip and then you still have like confessionals that are owed. Like I don't really know how that scheduling works. Like does Shep get to go on an international trip, but then he comes back for the final portion of like the reunion and the confessionals? I don't know, but maybe JT just sought peace in the woods of Costa Rica, and then he said, "This is not right for me. It's affecting my mental health." But typically, you wouldn't quit, before all your contractual obligations. That's what makes this sort of an outlier to me.
Yeah, and I can't imagine he really had any allies left on the show because he kind of...
Rod? Rod hated...
There's maybe Rodrigo.
Who liked JT at the end of Southern Charm?
No one.
I'm trying to think. Who were his allies? I thought that people were kind of like, I like this JT guy, but then I'm like, Austin probably, hated him. Craig likes Austin more than JT, so obviously he's not winning that battle. Shep loves Craig and Austin. So I don't remember. Where JT left off.
The Queen of Bravo, that account, her take was bring back Rod. I'm like, you aren't allowed to have an opinion anymore.
Bring back Rod. Yeah, Queens of Bravo. I don't like to talk shit or whatever, but there's something going on with that account. I think
Something's afoot.
Something's afoot. Do you think when they found out in the edit that that JT whispered to someone, at BravoCon potentially that Patricia, he used the B word against Patricia, that Whitney as an executive producer and Patricia as I don't know if she's an executive producer, but they were like, this cannot stand, and so it's you know what I mean, retribution for saying a horrible word against Patricia. Do you think there's any
takedown?
Yeah, you think there's any merit to that? And he's like, the edit is getting away from me. Whitney's in the command center. He just locked himself in the editing bay of Southern Charm, and he's using all the outtakes of me saying horrible shit. So I know this is going to be a fucked up villain edit for me this season.
Yeah. I mean, also, he always seemed very much like trying to participate and find his way in. And as we discussed in the preview, he's trying to act like he's going to pursue Vanita or something. Mm-hmm. But then on Instagram recently, he like soft launched or like posted that he has a girlfriend. So, I mean, predictably so, that was bullshit on the show. So maybe he's just like has a girlfriend now and decided he doesn't have the energy to try and insert himself since he doesn't actually fit in.
Yeah, but still there's no, there's no excuse. That theory does not bring me to the conclusion to quit without fulfilling your obligations. If it's just some minor thing that you're combating. I think something detrimental happened, and the way the cast is reacting makes me think like, damn, I think a fight went wrong, or you said something horrible and you don't want to account for it and you're blaming reality television. I liked JT. I mean, I know he was a little bit of one note, and I think you and I started to complain. We're like, get off your high horse, this knight in shining armor routine. Like, let us enjoy Austin and Craig and Shep or whatever without you having to always be the counterbalance to them. I still thought his energy was unique. Like, they had to fight with JT about for their honor and everything. Like, I still enjoyed that. So it's a bummer that he's going to quit halfway through, but we could find out what the real truth was. And we're like, God damn. Okay. Get this guy off immediately.
Canceled. Yeah. I saw a comment the other day. Someone said excited to have JT back, or like love JT on the show. And then Madison replied, said no one ever.
Really? When did that happen?
It was like this week. It was probably on one of those accounts that they like highlighted it,
Wow. That's it. That's a big deal. I mean, what if he just saw that comment and he was like, wow, that you treat me like that? I really don't remember his alliances at the end of season 10.
I feel like he was like kind of rolling solo at the reunion and everyone was like, shut up.
Because he loved Taylor, remember?
Yeah.
He loved Taylor. Yeah, I'm looking at the cast and I can't imagine who was. Yeah, maybe he's not organically gelling with anyone anymore. Also, the Vanita storyline flopped, but you don't quit halfway through. So there's got to be something there. I think Whitney said, never say that about my mom. I'm going to give you the worst edit of all time. And JT quit in protest. That's my theory.
Well, it's a good indicator. I think that sounds fun to watch if it leads to that,
Yeah, and I hate to always ask this question, but do you think JT will come on Turtle Time and tell us the truth?
Maybe. He'll probably have something to promote. I don't know what his business is, but...
That Men of Legacy.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Louis' retreat just came into my mind. I was like, Men of Legacy. Remember he was wearing that Men of Legacy shirt?
We should make our own merch of that.
Turtles of Legacy? I remember when, sorry to go back to remember when Louis made them all do those devotions to their wife and he filmed them in his garage wearing that Men of Legacy shirts?
You should have been Louis for Halloween and just like sprayed yourself like red tan.
I would have absolutely loved to be Louis for Halloween. I don't even know what the hell I was this year. Okay, JT, that was big news. That was piping hot fresh in the morning. So when you listen to this at 2 p.m. Eastern, you're going to be like, whoa, hot off the presses. Turtle Time is really putting the work in. I have to say, you and I've never seen Real Housewives of Dubai. Maybe that speaks to my character and my unprofessionalism, but I've never watched Dubai. I think it would have come up on in our rotation at some point had we not been completely beleaguered by 500 shows that we're covering.
Yeah.
So we would have probably gotten to it. We would have watched it, but we always, I think neither of us thought that it was like that compelling that we had to drop everything and start watching it. And then I guess the ratings were not good, were insurmountable, and Bravo, as is the new nomenclature, they're putting it on pause. So they don't call stuff canceled anymore. It's just like we are not reigniting this show for the time being.
Yeah, I watched most of the first season, and it did not do it for me. Even though Phaedra made an appearance, I'm like, now we can get Phaedra in many other places, so I don't need her there. But yeah, it wasn't vibing for me. I never felt the need to continue even after having a podcast.
Yeah, on the like scale of Bravo shows, was it close to the RHONY level of quality than like the Potomac level of quality or OC?
Yeah,
level?
I would say closer to RHONY. It has at least like, it's a little interesting seeing the way they live, but like also Dubai is kind of like gross and boring. Like everything is brand new. It's about how they have to put like ice in their pool because it's so hot. Yeah. Obviously there's like kind of like problematic things about that nation in general that it makes it kind of surprising that Bravo wanted to form a show around it, which I think a lot of people comment about all the time. And it's like it's kind of like one of those shows where the women are too self-aware that like Jen Shaw season 1 style, where like totally they show up wearing like a ball gown to brunch and you're like, okay. Yeah,
yes. I was just going to ask you, I was like, do you think that they were too entrenched in Housewives tropes and that kind of ruined the show at like the new RHONY?
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree. It never popped in my mind to be like, you and I have to start watching this. I think that's how a lot of viewers must have felt. It just didn't get over the hump. And, if you love Dubai, let us know if we were missing out on something for the last 2 seasons. But I think overall, people were just not responding to this franchise. That's why I got paused. I want to speaking of RHONY, because I just brought it up for no reason. You and I have sent videos back and forth, and I feel like the world, the Bravo universe, like commentators, just got the memo that they can freely and openly talk about how dog shit the quality of RHONY is. I felt like there was an embargo for a full season where no one wanted to say anything bad about it for the most part. People were just not watching it, but most people were like, this is fresh as hell, and thank God for a breath of fresh air. But now I have only seen horrible commentary, people completely talking about how dog shit this season of RHONY is. And it's not markedly worse than last season. It's exactly almost on par. It's just that people are having to tolerate it, I think, longer.
Yeah, I think it's just a bridge too far. We've watched it now just long enough that we realize that it's never going to change. And that, because I feel like the first season was awful and we said so at the time, but you do have to give season 1 a little benefit of the doubt. Like, it's the very beginning. They're just getting to know each other. Maybe we always thought season 2 could build off of what season 1 built or whatever. But I think it's becoming very clear as we get into like mid season 2 that it just like actually has nothing to offer.
Yeah. And you could argue that it's like it is getting worse, or it's just less enjoyable to even talk about because it's just so bad and boring. And it'd be it's like that irony scale. It'd be completely different if you and I were like, every week is a train wreck of how bad this franchise can be. We love to talk about it, but it's almost getting so boring. It's just not even fun to talk about anymore. But what do you think? What do you think? Just that every Bravo commentator just decided to just finally admit it, and we all reached the limit of what we can tolerate from this bad franchise?
Maybe they were inspired by our bravery and saw that we took the first step and now they're falling like dominoes. Like we saw Danny Pellegrino was pretty brutal about it on Twitter. We saw the Bravo Bros or whatever were like railing it. Like I was like,
Yeah.
it's one thing to be like, yeah, it's not very good, but like people are like, it's wretched, it's unwatchable, it's a nightmare, it's a joke.
I saw like people making fun of Bryn, talking about how horrendous Bryn is. You said that Ira Madison thing. You said the only thing worse than Donald Trump becoming president is that I'm glad I didn't have to also watch RHONY. It's like, God, like that's like major shots fired from powerful commentators in the Bravo universe. I feel like in the last 2 weeks it became acceptable to say it. I'm very glad people are saying it. And Danny Pellegrino, who you just mentioned, I love what he said. He said, hey, everyone, which he's knowledgeable. He goes, Bravo knows RHONY is bad. That's why they put that boring as hell episode on election night, because they don't give a shit who watches RHONY. They're burning through this season, getting it over with, getting to the finish line, and then they're going to decide how they deal with this thing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, normally you would not air a brand new episode when like 50 million Americans are watching something else.
Yeah.
But I thought maybe it was just because people watch shit on Peacock now. But yeah, I think if it was like OC reunion was going to be that night, or like something that they like something that actually got good ratings, I highly doubt they would have aired it that night.
We're going to have to wait until like Daddy Diaries 3 or the Teenage Daddy book from Andy, where he's going to be like 5 years from now, he's going to be like, I know RHONY was a horrible mistake. You should see the things I had to deal with behind the scenes. I can't remember when he made fun of. He didn't make fun. He said the Summer House season 7 reunion was really bad in Daddy Diaries. He was I remember that. He was like, man, the cast of Summer House really didn't bring it this reunion.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was an absolutely awful reunion. I was like, damn, you put that in your diary? The Summer House cast is going to read that they had a horrible reunion. Like, I think he'll finally be
the same one where he called out Lindsay Hubbard for
Yes.
like abusing his staff.
Yes. Yes, he did. But so I'm just saying, I think I imagine a world where Andy Cohen finally, he's very, he's honest for the most part, except when he's talking about an active show, when he says it's the best show he's ever seen in his life. But I'm sure 2 or 3 years removed from this disaster, we will get the real truth of what Andy Cohen thought about this entire exercise. Because it was fully his idea, this
Right.
entire thing.
I would love to know where the hell, I'm like, have you lost your touch, bro? Like, what do you see when you watch these episodes? Because I swear to God, like the one this week was, like anyone with eyes would say that was bad television.
Yeah, I think it's fake it till you make it. I think it's let's see if we can power through this. I'm gonna say this is great. I think that there's something here. And I know we can get there maybe with another season, and that's just not happening. It's getting worse, and it's going to become indefensible. You're right. It's like you start to question the quality control there. But I think he was just trying to make this work as best he could, saying this is one of the best seasons he's ever seen in his life, and then eventually he's going to atone for this mistake.
Right. I'm surprised they haven't tried to pull like a zinger, like sweeps week thing where they just like make them go to a Countess Luann show or like some bullshit. You know what I mean? Like just like shove them into a scenario that will at least make people excited.
Like, so in that scenario, you mean like if like, hey, I found out Luann de Lesseps is having a cabaret show. We should all go to it.
Yeah. Like Bryn would be like, she's one of my clients, or like, she's a friend of mine, or like just some bullshit.
She's an early adopter for the Riz app.
Yeah. Or like Jenna Lyons is like, I'm doing a collab with Giovanni.
Right. And then you get Luann in there. I think that's a great idea, and I do wish they would throw a Luann bomb in there. But I think I've said this before. If RHONY watchers get even one little peek at Luann's face or hear her voice, even off screen, everyone's eyes the eyes divert to Luann. The eyes of
Someone
the audience
heard Luann.
and then it's unrecoverable. you cannot come back from that. People will be like, I want to see what the hell Luann is doing for the rest of my life, and what Sai and Uba are doing. I can't ever watch that again. So anyway, that's all the news I had. A little bit of RHONY talk just about that. JT Thomas. Anything else? Oh, we talked about Dubai.
Yeah, there wasn't too much. It was mostly Trump this week, I think.
Oh, news-wise?
And it will be. Anyways.
Right. Do you want to, I want to ask you, do you want to talk about Salt Lake City? Because it's a little more, there's a little more to talk about. And then Reunion is kind of, OC Reunion is a little, easier to talk about, just stray thoughts. Does that make sense to you? Okay, cool. All right. So Salt Lake City, another amazing episode. I loved it. It's a little bit of the half of it is let's get ready for the trip. Let's settle in. Let's pack our bags. Let's establish what's the problem here. And then the second half is we're in Palm Springs. We're having the time of our life. We're doing shots of tequila. We're sitting by the pool. So it has that flow to it. But I think it's a great episode because, like we said about the cast of Potomac, the cast of Salt Lake City, you can almost watch them do anything, and it's pretty entertaining. That's how I felt about this episode. And yeah, I mean, it's structured to where Bronwyn got authority to invite who she wanted on this trip. She said, Brittany, you're a rival friend of, so I'm obviously giving you the boot because I don't want you to have any power on the show. I didn't really find what the reason is for why she doesn't want to bring Brittany. I think it was pretty rude to not bring Brittany. And then Heather blew her shot because Heather kind of made her work a little too hard to get Bronwyn to approve her for the trip. So Heather decided to kind of take the bullet and be like, if you're even going to pretend to not invite me, I'm just not going to go on this trip and let you all go on this trip because I'm powerful enough to just stay home. And it's not going to affect my legacy on this show at all to not go on this trip.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I guess the head-to-head Heather versus Bronwyn is entertaining. Like I said last week, I'm normally a little reticent to be down to let a newbie go that hard immediately. I don't think that the actual feud is that interesting because it's not based on much. But
Yeah, let me ask. So what, I think it might be good to reassess what's going on here at this point in the season, but what are Heather and Bronwyn fighting about? Bronwyn was called two-faced by Heather. Heather has, I would say, legitimate evidence to think that Bronwyn was kind of two-faced, the way she was talking about Whitney behind her back and saying one thing to Lisa. But then now Bronwyn kind of thinks that Heather shouldn't be talking shit about her. And also she is lumping in the fact that Heather questioned the prenup to Todd, which I didn't really think that was a big deal. I thought at that Harley-Davidson museum, I thought that was just Heather being like, you don't have a prenup? That's interesting. Almost everyone in the world has a prenup, and Todd is really rich. So she kind of added that into the case against Heather for me. And I did think that they didn't properly navigate that fight at Bronwyn's home in last week's episode to where Heather just wanted a full apology from Bronwyn and didn't want to give Bronwyn anything. And Bronwyn wanted at least a little nugget of hope that their relationship could have a future. And Heather gave her absolutely nothing. Heather was much more powerful as an OG cast member. So she was basically like, pay full deference and homage to me, and I don't give a shit about your trip. And the fact that you're even lording this trip over me, I'm not going to play by your rules. And then Bronwyn's like, well, I'm powerful too, so that's why I'm not going to invite you on my trip. And it's sort of like, I think that they could get over this with maybe a 5-minute sit down again, Yeah. It's not that serious. Nothing deep happened between them.
Yeah, and they don't have any background, so it's not that deep because they don't really know each other. But yeah, and then at the beginning, when Heather meets Lisa and Meredith at that spa, Lisa is now saying that she was irritated by her invite call with Bronwyn which they played it back, and I was like, I don't really get what you're saying. I guess Bronwyn was like, are you going to be cool if Whitney and Justin are there? And Lisa took it as are you going to start shit? Are you going to embarrass me? Are you going to be misbehaving, and Lisa's like, my husband's a CEO, he'll be just fine. I'm like, she was asking if like there's 5 couples on a trip and you're feuding with one of them, like, are you going to be comfortable?
Yeah, I was trying to interpret what Lisa meant because I also didn't see anything really wrong about how Bronwyn said it. I think it's the fact that she's implicitly taking Whitney and Justin's side, and like she's inviting them, and then questioning if Lisa could tolerate them and go on the trip. Like it's automatic that Whitney and Justin are going on this trip, even though Bronwyn has a better relationship with Lisa. I think it's, again, they're both fighting about who has loyalty to who, and Bronwyn is questioning that Lisa has loyalty to Heather and won't do anything in a relationship with Bronwyn to like defend her. And then Lisa, in her own way, is saying, why the hell do you have any loyalty to Whitney over there? You know that she's been talking shit about me, accusing me of all this Alibaba shit. So why is this even a question? Like, I should be the de facto person invited on the trip, and you should be testing the waters with Whitney. That's what I thought that was about.
Right. But then it's like what happens by the end of the episode, it's like maybe she was like, you're on thin ice, like, are you going to behave yourself? Because her and Todd are like not having it. So
Todd had a rule. We should say this. He's calling Bronwyn. He's in, I think, South Korea. And he goes, I just got a new Starbucks mug. You're going to love it. Look at this thing. And Bronwyn goes, oh my God, get that back here immediately. I have the perfect place. I'm going to put that right in our kitchen. And he goes, just so you know, Bronwyn, I don't want any fighting. Absolutely none on this trip. That would ruin the trip for me. I don't want any nonsense like that. And Bronwyn goes, absolutely not. There will be no nonsense. So Todd has a very low threshold for what he considers to be fighting, in my opinion,
right.
Once they get on this trip.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get fully into that, but like, it was to me giving like, I told you if we were going to do this show that like, I wasn't going to be like part of any of this embarrassing bullshit. Like, yeah, it kind of was Tom Girardi-esque, like we said before.
It really was. Well, anything to say up until the point, I mean, they take a private jet. Anything
that, you want... there was like a flashback to an unseen moment where Meredith talks to Sean about something he said on a podcast about Brooks. So that's like another like husband thing that she says that he said something about using her son to deflect from her own wrongdoings, but they didn't roll a clip. And I don't know if that's because it like doesn't exist or if they weren't allowed to show it or something, but you would think if it was any good, they would show a clip.
Yeah. I want to say, I guess, about that is that Meredith, her storylines this season are not really hitting or having any impact at all. She's been talking about this bat mitzvah, which, you know, I'm excited about, but it sounds like we're not seeing any steps towards it. So is it just going to be like the finale party is going to be her bat mitzvah? Like, we're not getting the lead up to that. She just keeps talking about it. And then this stuff with Brooks and Sean, she kind of had to force that storyline into the record because no one would ever know what she's talking about here. Like, I feel like she kind of knows that none of this stuff is working. And then that's when the Seth stuff comes up, when Seth is like, I got to go to my meeting. And she's like, me and Seth are having so many issues. This absolutely sucks. I'm like, I feel Meredith struggling to make an impact this season. And they're not really giving her a powerful edit at all.
No, she feels super low energy and like almost like friend of, like, she's just kind of like there.
But I think she's trying. I just think that what she's offering is not working. You know, like, no one cared about what Sean Brooks got into an argument about on a podcast, and probably they don't want to bring up another podcast this season. They already did that with Whitney, you know.
Right. Oh, and then I guess, is this like news? Because I didn't bring it up before because I thought it would maybe get touched on in this episode or whatever. But like, Whitney revealed on Watch What Happens Live, right, that the blogger or the podcaster that told her about the Alibaba shit was just lying. So here's what I think happened. So this is the Alibaba shit. So I knew that Whitney was lying her ass off
She wanted to have a Monica / receipts proof timeline moment, just like Heather. Yeah. She's very jealous of Heather and jealous of Heather's impact on the show. So she wanted to have her own Nancy Drew mystery where she could Scooby-Doo someone and reveal a secret threat among them. It fully flopped in every way because no one believes that Lisa was DMing a random Bravo account to be like, hey, you should really report on the fact that Whitney sells absolute fucking garbage on her Prism website. I don't believe that happened. I don't believe Whitney ever believed it happened. And then when she said, I have proof from Up and Adam, I know Up and Adam to be a complete liar, horrible source for information, just complete fake news generator. I remember in the early days of Scandival, the reporting he was releasing into the world was some of the worst shit I've ever seen in my life. He was the perpetuator of the Raquel is at Miraval. I'm almost positive he said the Raquel is pregnant thing. Just complete fucking garbage. And it seems like he really, really, really also wants to be a part of the ethos of these or be a part of the atmosphere of these shows. So he was willing to lie and pretend like he had this incriminating evidence against Lisa, and he probably told Whitney, I've got the bombshell of all bombshells. It's going to be like the Monica reveal. I know for a fact that Lisa Barlow DM'd this Bravo account that I don't even... Dana Wilkie's Patreon or something is what it was.
Yeah.
So he goes, I got the smoking gun. You're going to love this. Call me while you're on camera. He's like, FaceTime me, please. I got to get my face on this show. He probably lied his ass off. And then Whitney either knowingly knows this is fake but wants to put it on the show, or she believed him and she's a horrible detective and horrible at creating storylines because she didn't know the truth about this and couldn't judge for herself that this seemed very fishy. Anyway, then immediately when it runs, Up and Adam says, what the hell? I didn't say that. They edited it out to make me say this other stuff. No, it wasn't that. I've got the proof. And once you see the proof, you're going to know. And also, Whitney's a moron. Like, he's having a full-blown, meltdown moment where he says that he has the proof of what really happened. But it's Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is the right one. He faked his way onto the show. Whitney either knowingly lied about thinking that it was Lisa who was behind this, or took the word of a reputed liar and brought it onto the show. But either way, it just completely fizzled out the Alibaba storyline. The only thing that could change it is if we actually found out that Lisa DM'd Dana Wilkie about this Prism jewelry. But I 100% believe that Lisa would not. That was way too beneath her to do anything that stupid.
Yeah, she was saying that he also called her after the fact and told her verbally, and then she said that I guess he is married to someone that's in the Mormon Salt Lake circle, so Whitney's friends with his partner, so she was double shocked because she thought that they were friends. But I'm yeah, you really just you ran with it, which is your own fault.
Yeah, and I even got sent here's Up and Adam talking about it. Here's the proof or whatever, and it's just I've got the proof. It's it's in my bank vault. I'm gonna release it at some point, but it's you lied. You all lied, and you got busted completely by it. And I'm glad that Lisa. I feel like she got completely exonerated by that new evidence, and it sounds like Whitney owes Lisa a huge apology, probably by the reunion.
Yeah. So yeah, they take a PJ paid for by Todd.
Did you
Mary's
like what
not
Seth
coming.
said? Mary's not coming. Did you like what Seth said? He goes, is this going to be a dry flight or can we have a completely wet flight? I'm going to start asking that to every steward or flight attendant that I meet on a plane. I'm going to say, is this considered a wet flight? Because that means you can drink alcohol.
Yeah. I feel like Meredith was what the hell? It's 7 a.m. And I'm on a plane, that doesn't count.
Yeah, plane is completely, it's in space, or not in space, but it's so high above. It's so outside of Earth that you're allowed to do whatever you want on the plane. Oh, and then you said it. Yeah, Mary, she said, I have to do something with my son this weekend. Which,
fair enough. He needs your help.
Yeah. We'll probably find out what that meant at the reunion, I think.
Yeah. So there's when it has them all split up into different cars driving to this ranch, and a few things happen on the way, but the storyline gets started of Bronwyn explaining her conversation with Heather, which Heather did earlier in the episode. to Lisa and Meredith. And this is where Bronwyn starts to feel like Lisa and Meredith are kind of siding with Heather on this one. Which, I mean, when Heather explained it earlier at the spa, I was like, if I didn't watch that scene and I went off of what you said, I would have no idea what the hell was going on. Like, there was just like no details.
I agree. I really agree. I love Heather almost more than anyone, but I think she's making too big of a deal of this and really just trying to toy with Bronwyn. And yeah, her analysis of what happened didn't make any sense. I think that Lisa and Meredith, this is their cast member. They love Heather. They've gone through so much shit with her that they obviously pay deference to Heather. But Bronwyn is right to be like, why the hell aren't you listening to me? Bronwyn's best evidence is at the pool. She says, I apologized to Heather and I tried to become friends and I tried to offer this trip to her if we could just be on good terms. And Heather didn't give me anything back. She said, she continued to call me a shit talker and two-faced, and she didn't allow for us to get to the point of an apology, which it's like, that is all true. That's completely true on Bronwyn's side.
Right. And then, it starts to feel like they get to this beautiful place, Cavallo Ranch. It looks very nice. And immediately the group's kind of splintered. Bronwyn is saying that Lisa's kind of giving off bad vibes, like she's just kind of off on her own, like she's not sure if something's wrong. And then we also get a quick moment, which it's apropos of nothing, but just a funny Lisa lore, where she says that she does not like the food in Italy because it's too fresh.
Yeah. I have always felt the same thing. I've never wanted to say it, so I was glad that Lisa was honest. But what do you think that means?
Like it's not fast food?
I think, maybe it's the diehard loyalty to Wendy's, and Italian food might be so in the exact opposite sphere of food as Italian food. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like, I like food that's made like Wendy's. I don't like this kind of food. But you could tell that Lisa got self-conscious as she said it out loud, because everybody said, what the hell are you talking about? And she kind of laughs at herself for saying that.
Yeah. Also hard to find Diet Coke out there.
Do you like Italian food from Italy?
Yeah, it's good.
I'm sorry to bring this up, but I had one of the best sandwiches of my life in just outside of Florence. So to be honest, I don't agree. I lied before. I don't agree with Lisa here. I had really good food in Italy.
Yeah, I was just talking about this with friends because I went to Rome like a few years ago, and the restaurants that we went to, we did sort of, I don't know if it's because our expectations were so sky high that like you think you cannot have a bad meal in Italy, like it's always going to be the best of the best. And we went to like recommended restaurants and stuff, and there were like some times where we were like, it was fine.
Oh yeah. I didn't want to say it because I respect the Italian people so much, but I had horrible meals in Italy too. I mean, it's so hard to navigate, being in a country and trying to find good meals. And like, I went to a couple major stinkers, like where it was like they had like a menu and it had like how to speak Italian on it for tourists. And I was like, God damn it. I went to the worst spot in the world. But anyway, no, but I don't agree with Lisa, like you said. It was just like you said, just a little insight into her kind of philosophy of life. But what I was thinking about the awkwardness of this trip, if you would have invited Heather and Brittany, I know it wouldn't have been organic, but I knew instantly that Heather was the missing ingredient, because she would have easily navigated this divide, and she would have done so much silly, fun humor that they would have never had this complete divide. You know what I mean? That's the benefit of bringing a lot of cast members on this trip. So there was a lot of awkward energy at first. It's kind of slow to get rolling, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's also like, I think because Bronwyn is the host and like she's new, so everyone's just gonna like go into their clique or whatever. And then what did you think about the little jewelry moment? Like, I guess she's just really trying to push that she's the rich one.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think so. Because Whitney goes to Justin. Justin's wearing that. I think he was wearing his shirt that says, what's a designer brand? Armani?
Sure.
Yeah, he just had a shirt that says, like, I'm wearing a designer shirt. But Whitney goes, this is one of the best, most richest trips we've ever been on. We've been on some decent trips before, but this is the wealthiest, this is the richest place I've ever been to in my life. So they really are, yeah, I think they're establishing. And then Bronwyn made a jeweler come from Los Angeles, drive, an hour? Is Palm Springs an hour and 15?
Yeah,
and deliver, 2, you said?
With traffic, more.
2 with traffic. Deliver $4 million of jewelry. And Bronwyn goes to the Todd father. She says, this is what I was thinking for my anniversary gift. But I kept thinking, why do you have to do this here? And why now? And why right when you arrive?
Right. And it was total bullshit. Like, cause like, she's like, we're going to like try these on and like let you know or whatever. I was like, okay, so you're borrowing them. Like, there's no fucking way you're buying a $4 million necklace. It's not happening.
It was what Charlize Theron wore in Mad Max Fury Road.
I had a question about that. So it wasn't the necklace that was out on the table. She said that last time she went and tried stuff on, her dog got to try on the necklace Charlize wore to the Oscars, but they showed them side by side and they were different.
What the hell is going on here? Yeah, I didn't understand it. I kind of just closed my eyes and stopped thinking for 3 minutes when that scene was going on. It doesn't make any sense, but I think you're exactly right about what the intention was. I come close to touching jewels such as these.
Yeah, those earrings put Erica Jane's blood earrings to shame.
Yeah, and there's no denying that Todd is wealthy as hell. We already talked about it. He was in that movie Blackberry as one of the pioneers of the Palm Trio. He worked at Hewlett Packard, I saw on his LinkedIn. HP, and now he's just a person that like you just make money, by like offering companies advice or whatever. So he's rich as hell, but a little bit of a show off energy there from Bronwyn. But then this is the part where it gets a little silly. So the guys are hanging out and they're going like, let's play cornhole, let's bathe in the sun. Yeah. Todd, how are you doing? And then on the other side, Bronwyn goes up to go to the bathroom. She's like, this is a perfect time to go to the bathroom. This is not going to be a big deal at all. And then Lisa goes, and Meredith go, God, we wish Heather was here. Oh, could you imagine? I feel so bad for her. How's Heather doing, you think? And then Meredith said this, by the way. She goes, why don't we call her? And then Angie goes, I would never call someone who wasn't invited the minute that the host walks away. I would never do this. Yeah. And Whitney, who absolutely hates Heather with all of her might, but will never admit it, is like, that's a bad vibe, too, in her confessional. She doesn't say it out loud. Lisa calls Heather. Heather goes, how are you all doing? It's a very nice, cordial conversation. Lisa goes, we miss you. Look at us here. Look at the Todd father. Look what he's doing over there in the pool. And then Bronwyn comes back from the toilet. And her reaction is very extreme. Yeah. She goes, who's on the phone? And she goes, who's on the phone? And she goes, oh my God, is this not a good time to come back from the toilet? And then she goes, why are we doing this now? And I was like, okay, I wanted to ask you, where do you fall on this conflict spectrum? Is it rude to call someone who wasn't invited the minute that the host leaves when you know that they have an issue with them? Or did Bronwyn sort of overreact in a way by being so self-conscious that she didn't invite Heather? And she's thinking about that, obviously, and she's new on this show, that she made a big, possibly strategically wrong move. So she's in her head about it, and the fact that the cast members did that behind her back makes her extremely self-conscious about her decision. Where do you think you fall on that?
Both. Like, it's weird to make that phone call. Obviously, that was to stir up shit. Like, that's like to include
you think so?
Another. Yeah.
Well, devil's advocate, because I'm not, jury's still out, but I could imagine a world where the minute Bronwyn leaves, you're like, I miss my friend Heather. I can't believe she doesn't get to be on this big Palm Springs trip with me. Let's just check in really quick.
You could do that in your bedroom?
Yeah, you're right.
Like a scene, but like knowing and like not being like, I don't know, like she just told you that they're beefing. Like that's a weird thing to do.
I think that there was such a lull in the conversation, and it was kind of boring them all to pieces, that they were just picturing and imagining Heather's buoyant energy behind them. And then they immediately, you're right, I guess. You know, I have to take that decision with a grain of salt. I have to say that there is a little bit of a motive for calling her.
If you went over to someone's house, they had like a dinner party, and they were like, I didn't invite Heather because
Heather's at my dinner party?
Yeah. If you're at a friend's dinner party and Heather's not invited because the host is like, she called me a piece of shit or whatever, like we're not getting along. And then like halfway through dinner, you're like, wish you were here, Heather.
Yeah, that's why. Remember, that reminded me of when Jax was on that one trip. Remember, and he goes, man, I love this trip, but it could have been a lot better. There are some people that I think should be here, and some people should definitely not be here. That's like exactly that same energy. Yeah. Okay, I you know what? I agree with you. I do think Bronwyn's actions were a little over-exaggerated because she felt self-conscious about the Heather decision, and I do think Lisa was maybe putting a little bit of salt in the wound and trying to stir up a little bit of shit at the pool because it was boring as hell. But it gets the desired reaction because Bronwyn hits the button on this thing, and I think Bronwyn did a really great job in this scene. Whether or not you like her reaction, she handled herself really well in her argument with Lisa. And Bronwyn was the full perpetuator of this argument. Lisa was pretty subdued the entire conversation, but Bronwyn, this is when it gets into what we were talking about earlier in the episode. Bronwyn thinks that Lisa will make Bronwyn fight her own battles with Heather, a very powerful cast member, and won't help her out, and will even defer to Heather. But then Lisa demands absolute loyalty when it comes to Whitney, and there's a double standard here. And Bronwyn famously, when she gets completely fed up, I forget what she says. She says, when it's me on my own, I have to fend for myself. But if it's anything regarding you, I have to ride your dick like it's my job.
Right. Which I'm a little bit like, again, I'm like, what is this, episode 8? I guess that's a lot of episodes. But I'm
halfway through.
How have we already, like, I'm like, it's always like that? Like, how many times has this happened that you're already like, I always have to ride your dick? I'm like, what? Like... Like, I guess I'm just like, it just all feels kind of convoluted to me that like there's like an assumed closeness across the board or like betrayals happening where I'm like, how do you already care that much?
I agree.
Know what I mean?
I agree with that. But I think this opportunity means so much to Bronwyn, and she's handling it very well. She's not letting us see the fray of a newbie. Like, she's doing so good. But I think the decision to go out on a limb and be sort of at war with a very powerful OG is causing internal strife within Bronwyn's head as how she's navigating this. And the fact that Lisa is offering no advice to her, even though they are friends, however debatable that is. They are seemingly friends from before this started. Bronwyn's getting a little fed up with Lisa. And I don't think it's over-exaggerated. I get what you're saying, totally, that it's like we're not seeing the bottom of the iceberg here, but I think that Bronwyn legitimately feels this way about Lisa. And I feel like she legitimately feels this way about Heather. I do not see... There was no faking performative energy in the way Bronwyn was arguing with Lisa. I was like, this is almost perfect. Like, I don't even 100% agree with you, but the way you're handling yourself in this argument, I was like, this is the perfect embodiment of how you handle yourself on one of these shows. Yeah.
I guess it's just the way she was talking, it felt like she was saying she was Kyle Richards to Lisa Vanderpump. Like, I've been by your side for years. I've been your foot soldier. Like, I say whatever you want me to say. And I'm like, it's been like a month.
Right. So that's on the audience. We don't know what the history of this relationship is. They didn't throw in like when Bronwyn had picked Lisa up from the airport wearing a bunch of different costumes or something. Like, we don't see the history of this relationship, so it leaves us wondering, okay, well, are you guys even really, friends here?
Right.
But Bronwyn does bring up a good point. She goes, when Whitney, they do this flashback to Whitney where Whitney is saying the worst shit in the world about Lisa. She's going, Lisa is the type of person that wants to make people miserable because she's miserable herself, or whatever the hell she said. Something very similar to that. And Bronwyn did stick up for Lisa. She goes, that may be your interpretation, but that is not at all how I feel about Lisa. So she did provide a counter to Whitney, talking shit about Lisa in that moment.
Right. And then Todd father rolls up on like a floaty, like a pool noodle. And he's like, we got to go see what these ladies are up to. It's getting a little heated over there. And he's like, for some reason, he's like, why don't we give Heather a call? And Angie's like, we already did. That's why they're fighting. Thank you.
That was the best advice I've ever heard. You come in not knowing what the hell they're talking about. And you say, let's call Heather. And then you find out and realize that that's exactly what spawned this whole thing. I don't think if I was in the pool and I just done a shot of Vita tequila and I was swimming around with Seth Marks, Sean, Angie K's husband, John, I'd be, splashing them, diving under the water and saying words that they have to decipher like underwater. I would be playing all those Marco Polo. I would
talking
not
about
have
how their wives are hot, and they what were the phrases they were using? They were like, we crushed it, and then Todd was like, I think they outkicked their coverage, which I think was too sporto for me to understand.
Me too. I had no idea what the fuck Todd was talking about. Seth goes, something I always say, he goes, may I have your attention? Something I always say is you judge a straight man by his wife, and we all crushed it. We all went way above our weight. And Justin goes, here. And then Justin you could say we outkicked our coverage. And Todd says, let me say something, because I'm going to make a different point. They outkicked their coverage. Everybody goes, oh my God, Todd, what the hell did you just say? So he's saying that they are lucky to be with those men in the pool. Seth,
right.
Seth,
those
John,
like you've never seen.
That's mean. Seth shouldn't have said that, because they're both lucky to be with each other. They're all perfect relationships, especially Justin and Whitney's.
Seth is so annoying in his bucket hat.
Yeah, he's very performative, and he was very performative. We didn't even talk about this because I didn't want to give it any light. But Seth goes, I got a big meeting at Big Lots tomorrow, honey, so I have to leave early. And Meredith goes, oh my God, that's horrible. And it's like, it just seemed like completely like a fake storyline, like adding in that they're trying to make some trouble in their marriage happen. Right.
So then when Bronwyn storms off, Whitney goes and checks on her, which it does feel like Whitney, she is, you can tell she wants to be on Bronwyn's good side. Like,
yes,
she already was like, yeah, like who knows, like Heather is kind of a wild card. Like she always is ready to throw Heather under the bus. Yes. But in this conversation is where now Bronwyn says that Lisa hasn't checked on her about the whole family drama with her baby daddy, and all, like she's like, she knows what's going on with me and she hasn't checked on me, which I feel like that's always a housewives thing, where you could just, if you don't know what to bitch about someone, you say, you don't check in on me.
That's pretty, you're right. I've never even thought about that. That is like one of the 10 things of how you can stir conflict up if you have nothing. It's just say, yeah, I wasn't checked in on during a horrible moment. Whitney used that last season about Lisa when she lied and said Lisa didn't check in when Whitney's friend died. And then we found out in the edit that Lisa sent like flowers, texted her a bunch, called her, just a complete lie.
Yeah. And that was like, didn't Lala say that about Ariana, or like, people, if you ever just want to come after someone, be like, you didn't check in on me.
Aaron and Jenna just did it.
Yeah.
Low hanging fruit. The weakest argument you can make if you want to stir up conflict. You are so right. I've never thought about that as a trope. That is a real, true thing. So then, I wanted to ask you really quick before we move on to the Todd father laying down the hammer on like, my God, like nobody's business.
Scary.
Like ship up or shape out. Before that, I wanted to ask you about Whitney and Heather's dynamic, because I talk about this a lot. It's just assumed that like Heather and Whitney are like cousins, and Heather always like defends Whitney, and it's always like they're an alliance, but like they're not really, right? Like,
No.
Heather doesn't like Whitney anymore, right? After years of her making up fake stories about her and always being jealous of her. And Whitney truly hates Heather, like, is so jealous of Heather and hates her. I'm like, I'm kind of tired of even pretending that there's a good relationship here.
Yeah.
There's
it's
not.
toxic for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's always ready to crumble. I feel like it's like Tamra and Shannon, where
Yes.
you're like, you like want each other dead. Why do you keep coming back together? Like, just cut it off.
But I think it's more Whitney. I feel like it's more like Whitney gets to do whatever the hell she wants to Heather, and Heather just kind of pats her on the head after it's over and says, yeah, you tried to ruin my life. I forgive you, and I still love you. Like, that's just Whitney for you, you know?
Yeah, there can only be one bad Mormon.
All right.
So
Todd.
Todd comes in and
Oh my God! Did you see him open that glass screen glass door? Is that how you call it?
It was like full like "Don't Wake Daddy" vibes, and Daddy got awoken.
It was totally "Don't Wake Daddy" in there.
Don't wake Daddy.
They woke Daddy. Daddy was trying to snooze on that noodle in the pool. They were doing a 4 out of 10 argument. I swear they were basically whispering. It wasn't that bad. Bronwyn was the only one that even turned up the decibel to maybe a 7 out of 10. It was fully Bronwyn who was fighting. Lisa was subdued, like I said. Todd, unfortunately, what happens in Don't Wake Daddy? You step into his room to try to grab his reading glasses or something.
He goes ape shit.
Don't Wake Daddy's wearing oh my gosh, he's wearing a nightcap. They have a snore sound on him, and then you creep into his room and you try to get his slippers from him or something. It's not like anything nefarious.
Operation, but like
yeah. And then if you make any even above a whisper, Daddy rises up from the bed and goes, "Get the hell out of my room!" And so that's what. So Todd, you're right. Todd pops in and he goes, Bronwyn. He goes, what the hell did we say at the start of this trip? I didn't want any kind of fighting on this beautiful trip that I planned in this $20,000 Airbnb that I rented. And Bronwyn,
he's like, I'm not going to deal with this crap with these people, and especially Lisa, that one. And he's like, either I could leave or they can leave.
Todd should have left.
Yeah, he's like, let's just give them some money and they can find their way back or whatever. And I'm like, that's so fucking rude.
It's so rude. Todd, also, how did Lisa get on Todd's radar?
Right.
Why, like, because Bronwyn is Lisa's friend. Does he have a preconceived notion? Does he already know Lisa and he thinks that she's quick to fight or something? I didn't like the specific call out of Lisa. And also,
right.
I can't understate the fact that this was more of a Bronwyn argument with Lisa than it was Lisa arguing with Bronwyn. Lisa tried to call it off multiple times during that fight.
Yeah. And she doesn't even try and talk him off the ledge. Like,
no,
she's not like, all right, like, it's fine. Like, I'll work it out with her. She was like, well, then you tell them that they have to leave. I'm not going to be the one to tell them. I'm like, don't tell them to leave. Like, you've been there for like 2 hours. That
was shocking. The fact that Bronwyn was okay with Lisa and John being kicked to the curb outside of her house.
Yeah.
For FaceTiming Heather and sort of arguing about it. Todd got absolutely pissed, and he goes, I am going to go outside and talk to Mr. Barlow right now and tell him to shape up or they're shipping out. So he goes, and John, I feel so bad for John Barlow. He's having a IPA. He's sitting in the sun. The rays are washing over him, and then the Todd father comes out, and he goes, this is getting out of control. And John goes, what's going on? He's kind of like woken up from like almost a nap. He was loving life out there. And he goes, all the bullshit. I told Bronwyn I wouldn't sit through a bunch of arguments, so it's got to stop. Lisa's got to stop or you guys got to go.
Yeah. He looked so like sad and like confused, and he was like, all right, I guess I'll go find her and talk to Lisa. But like, I was like, what the hell? Like, that's, I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens next, because I would be like so outraged.
Me too. On the don't wake daddy scale though, like I have gotten accustomed to when a fight breaks out in any environment, the world treats it as if nothing is happening. Like we scream at restaurants, we break glass, husbands are just standing there with like Blair Witching in the corner, like not responding to anything. I do like that finally a fight provoked a real response. I mean, it was a little over exaggerated, even in a real environment. Like that fight wouldn't have registered and make me want to kick somebody out. But I do like that we got a reaction that we never see, which is a house husband kicking people out. Like, it reminded me of you remember when Tamra was screaming about Ryan and Jen at Katie and I think her husband Matt's party, and Matt just knew that this is what happens, so he had to tolerate people screaming at the top of their lungs and fighting at his party. He didn't kick them out because he knows he's on a show. I like that this is almost the real reaction that would happen versus what we get 9 out of 10 times.
Right. Yeah, he was like, I've had enough of this. I've had a whole weekend's worth in 3 hours. And I'm like, yeah, the threshold is quite low. And she's like, I know that Todd can be an asshole, but he's my knight in shining asshole. Like, he was like coming to my defense or whatever. And I'm like, he wasn't really like saying it like to protect you. He was just like disturbed.
Yeah, he was like
overstimulated.
Yeah. He was like, get your friends out of here. I don't defend this over reaction at all. And he did kind of seem like a dickhead for the first time.
Yeah, and it also like made their dynamic like kind of, that's why it reminds me of Tom Girardi, where like you get to see the moment where the woman that's usually so bold and like empowered, once the cranky grandpa like tells them to like get their shit together, they kind of like cower a little bit. Like Erica Jane, like at that dinner table was like, okay, like, all right, like whatever. And like Bronwyn was like, all right, like go tell them, like, I'm not gonna argue with you. And it's kind of like fucked up and weird. Yeah.
And for the audience, like, I don't think Todd is powerful at all. Like, who cares? Who cares that you work for Cloud 5 investor firm or that you worked at Hewlett Packard? We don't care. You're just like John Barlow in our universe. So don't just treat people like how everyone should be respectfully treated. I have no deference to the Todd father at all. So
Bronwyn also made a remark about Lisa. I think it was like right around the like, I have to ride your dick like it's my job or whatever. In her confessional, she was like, if I haven't earned your loyalty, I should have bought it by now by this like weekend trip I'm hosting or whatever. And I'm like, welcome to the Housewives, bitch. Like, whether or not you paid for this trip, you guys would be somewhere.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Who cares?
You're right. I fully agree with that. And then John says, I'll talk to Lisa. And he goes up and he goes, Todd, the Todd father is fucking pissed down there. You should have heard him. He basically said, shape up or ship out. We're out on our ass pretty soon if you don't nip it in the bud with Bronwyn. Lisa goes, Lisa's like, First John goes, what's happening? And Lisa goes, I don't know. I got in an argument with Bronwyn about my loyalty to Heather. And he goes, well, the Todd father just said we're out on our ass if you continue to fight. And then it ends with Lisa looking incredulously at John like, how could this be real? And then we get the to be continued. My bet, I'm betting all my chips, all the money I have, they get to stay. Right?
Yeah, I'm curious though, like I actually don't know what's gonna happen, because is she gonna be like, what? Like, this has to be a misunderstanding, or is she gonna be like, this is bullshit, like, we're out of here? You know what I mean?
You're right. Well, maybe I shouldn't have bet all my money. There's probably a preview that's out right now where it shows Lisa and John at the airport, and they're like, we left. No, you're right.
I mean, I think I would, depending on, if you want to be like a normal person, you would go talk to them or talk to Bronwyn or whatever and be like, wait, like, what's going on? Like, I didn't mean for it to get out of hand like this. Like, that would be like a normal human response. But if you want to be like, get fired up and just go with your id, I'd be like, fuck you.
Yeah. You could totally imagine that fuck off Todd, energy. Like, I don't give a fuck that you have a lot of money. Who cares? And also, Bronwyn was screaming at me. So maybe you're right. Yeah. Maybe Lisa will handle it differently. But what I expect is that, you're on a trip. I would want to stay in Palm Springs. If Todd almost threatened to give me the boot, I'd be like, well, look at the ping pong table. Look at that pool. Like,
no bathtubs.
No bathtubs. You're right. But I would be like, Todd might go to sleep like give him a couple more shots of tequila. He might go to sleep, and then I can fight my ass off anytime I want. You know, like I would probably contain my inner fight to stay on the trip, just person. You know, like you know what I mean. Just personally, would you be the person who
You're
says,
like, I need the freebie?
yeah, I want to continue to drink the tequila. I want to do that boat stuff that Angie was doing when she was getting that volleyball off the lake or whatever that was.
I don't know. I'd be pretty embarrassed by the threat of getting kicked out. Like I'd be like, then I don't want to be here. Like go fuck yourself, you know?
Yeah. Is that why you and I are different?
Maybe so. All right, we should move on to OC though, because I really enjoyed the first part.
Me too.
I will say, I know that you like Katie, and I think I've liked her fine, except you know that I defend Heather against her takedown. But like, I don't know what she did or what happened, but everyone decided that she needed to die.
Yeah. It was, I mean, this was 3 parts. Basically, because the first part is learning about Katie and her past. I mean, this was basically just Katie and then Ryan and Jen. That's how they barely got started. I was very, very surprised. But yeah, I thought it was amazing, and I had no idea what Katie had going on before she started the show. So it starts out, I can kind of segue in. So we don't even need to talk about the Shannon alcohol stuff because it's just so obvious. Tamra does this every single reunion. She will fight her ass off. She will be as evil as possible. She'll say the most despicable shit. And then by the reunion, she's contrite. This is the Jax Taylor model. You're just contrite. You apologize. You say, I can't believe I said that. Here's why I did it, but you gotta forgive me. I'd love to move forward. She does this every single season. So it's not even worth talking about. But Gina, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I did like that I think Tamra points out that this is the like 10th reunion that Shannon's drinking has come up, and Shannon's like, that's because you bring it up every year. And then they did like a little like montage of squares, which it's not just Tamra that brings it up. It is almost always relevant, but Tamra is a big part of it. But
there was like Kelly Dodd. She was like, are you drunk? And I did like, you know, because I think we're going to get more of this. That's the only reason why I'm kind of skimping on the coverage. But I did like when they were talking about the alcohol, the drunk driving, when Heather was like, yeah, you know, my only concern was when Terry read the report that you were 3 times over the legal limit. He thought it was kind of like wild that your body was even able to be awake for that amount of liquor in your body. It shows that it's a testament to how much you drink.
Seriously, we should get a little breathalyzer and try and get to that point just in the safety of our homes, because like what would that be? 24?
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like you're basically just completely your water in your body is replaced with alcohol at that point.
Your blood is alcohol.
But people who can't black out, you know, like they just have to become like full-blown zombie mode. Because their body won't shut down because it's so used to, it craves that alcohol. We can get, I'm going out on Saturday. I could get a breathalyzer before then, I think. And if you wanted to drink at a bar, we could.
I've done that before. Long story, but I was at the Madonna Inn one time, and there was like a sheriff's convention.
Oh,
it's all a blur, but there were a lot of men in cowboy hats at the bar, and one of them had a breathalyzer, and we played a fun game where we drank martinis and then did breathalyzers, and all of us were doing breathalyzers, and it was probably like one of the booziest nights I've ever had. So I don't even know if any of us got that high on the scale. So the fact that she even entertained getting in a vehicle at that level is actually crazy.
Wow. So you didn't even come close to 0.24.
I need to check the photos, but I don't remember anyone getting that crazy.
So that gives people hope for the drunk driving limit. You can have at least 2 or 3 martinis before it even goes past 0.8, right?
Maybe over the course of like 8 hours.
Wow. Wow. That sounds a sheriff's convention right at the Madonna Inn. That sounds wonderful. And I would love to take that drinking challenge with you. Let's just promise each other that we won't drive afterwards.
never.
Okay. Anything else? You go ahead. I have the Katie stuff locked down, but you tell me anything, any stray thought you liked. But how it starts, I just want to bring up how it starts. It starts with a little Gina. Gina kind of taps the ball in the hole on Katie, if that's a golf metaphor.
Yes, I know. She kind of like comes out of nowhere with it, actually.
Yeah. She goes, so when you were in San Francisco, were you living in San Francisco in a house that you owned?
San Diego.
Oh, what did I say? Oh, my
San
God.
Francisco.
Oh, my God. San Diego. I'm so sorry. Gina goes, what's that house like in San Diego? And Katie's like, bought and paid for. And then, no, she goes, it was leased to own. And Gina goes, well, that's really interesting because you told me when you started texting me about needing a realtor, you said you owned your house in San Diego. And then Emily goes, yep, I saw the proof of that. You're a liar. What the hell is going on there with this San Diego OC shit? Yeah.
And Emily, I feel like is the, I don't know, like the sidekick defender this episode so far. Like she comes in from the side and she was like, yeah. And then Katie made that reel on Instagram where she was joking about living in her house in Orange County or whatever. And Katie's like, yeah, that was like a joke, which I'm like, yeah, I would never, I don't know, get that outraged about a dumbass Instagram reel. But yeah, I was wondering, I'm like, is part of it that they're giving her shit about not living in Orange County while being an Orange County housewife? Is that the underpinning?
Exactly. And that's why Andy Cohen didn't touch this shit with a 10-foot pole. It's bordering on getting into the machinations of casting here. Katie was probably recruited in San Diego. They thought, you're a vibrant spirit. Let's have you move to the OC and try this thing out. So there was probably this period where she didn't technically live in OC or got a rental or something. And they're calling it into question about being like to provide evidence that she lies all the time. But it's like that can't be added to this. I don't want to know. You know, I don't like that you didn't live in OC and you had to move from San Diego and that's why you left your son in San Diego or whatever. But I chalk that all up to the casting process here. You know what I mean? Like that's not indicative of her behavior as a person, but then it goes much deeper.
That's the thing. I'm like, it was a total hit job. And like, I think a lot of it, I was like, okay, like they're kind of just giving her like no benefit of the doubt and trying to poke holes in everything she's ever said. But there was so much stuff that I was like, damn, you are chaotic.
Yeah. So first after they, call her out on living in San Diego and if she lied about the home she was in and, it's kind of questionable what that really means. But then they go, what about this $5 million lawsuit about these golf ball shots that you've been crafting on the side? And then we see a flashback that we never saw where Katie goes to a business meeting, which I have to say this has to be an official rule. No first-time cast members on Bravo shows should be allowed to create a business the first season. Absolutely not. Don't talk about your business, and do not, for the love of God, create a new business on the first season. That has to be in the clause. But anyway, and they completely cut it out. But this person who's suing them said her business partner's husband was on the golf course with some guy, and that guy had the golf ball shot idea, which is like, I mean, on the grand scheme of ideas, it's not that wild. Like,
no,
you know
what
I mean?
It's like novelty drink container.
Yeah, but she's being sued for $5 million. And then Heather pulls up a text from Sutton, and Sutton goes, look at this shit. This is exactly what she did to me. She said she was going to bring some powerful people to my house in Augusta, and she left us completely in the dust and didn't pay for anything.
Yeah, she said that she used my house for promo, didn't bring the pro golfers, never paid for the photos, which I was a little confused on what the setup for that event was or whatever, but I guess it doesn't really matter. The point is that she had used Sutton as like a proof of ally before, like against Heather, and now it's clear that Sutton has flipped on her, and now Heather's like, well, like you're all alone, fuck you.
Yes, that's what it is. It's like your character witness just became, I don't know how the law works, but the character witness just went
to the prosecution,
and it's like, shit, my witness. That happens in, I think, Presumed Innocent. Have you ever seen that?
I don't think so.
The witness is like, Your Honor, I object. I want to be on the other side.
Oh, wow.
Well, then there's even more parsing of Katie's origin. It's like they're not through yet. It's like they're like, let's talk about this snub story. And then Heather goes, I'd love to talk about this snub story because there are 3 different versions of this thing. And I'm not going to get into all the versions, but Katie she's having trouble making the snub story work. And here's what I'll say in Katie's defense, and this is the last time I'll defend Katie this episode. I think she went into this show with a bunch of preconceived notions about how you operate. I don't know how familiar she is with the Housewives universe. How familiar do you think she is? She knows it like the back of her hand, or she doesn't know at all?
She seems smart, like she would do her research.
Okay. I think so too. And so she had snub story, which probably wasn't that big of a deal, paparazzi shit, and then she moved to this show and moved for this show and used Gina as a bridge. It was a way for production to have a natural connection between a cast member by making it seem like Katie was going to use Gina as a realtor. So all these issues are just Katie doing a very bad job of laying the groundwork for her entrance on the show. She should have just came in, no idea about anything, and just been herself and tried to navigate a path just off her pure merit and not laid the groundwork so shittily. That's my theory for Katie. Yeah.
Because Heather's argument is like, why would I treat you like shit straight out the gates? It would behoove me to make friends with you as the new girl, which I'm like, that's not usually how things work, but okay.
Yeah, but I give the benefit of the doubt to Heather now because there is so much questioning now, of what Katie's doing.
Yeah. And Heather Heather doesn't really fall into that category of like a Vicky or like I guess like Dorinda or like Ramona. Like there are certain people that like will not make friends with the new girl. Like they will like beat the shit out of them. Heather doesn't do that.
No, and we already saw that there was a misinterpretation of a snub on this season in the finale. Remember, Matt goes, ice cold snub that we just received. It's like, who knows what a snub is? Like, if you think Heather should know you and she doesn't technically know you or got you confused with someone else, anybody could mistake that for a snub,
Right. Yeah. And then they get into the Disneyland shit again.
I love it.
And Katie's like, so actually most of the information happened over the phone. She says that she got a video about Heather at Disneyland on her For You page, like on TikTok, and then sent that to her contact, her mole, and that verbally he confirmed that it was not Heather, but someone in her camp or close to her is the one that called.
Yes.
Which I'm like, why is the story changing? Or did she say that before?
No, I think she
Never
said,
did?
Terry and Heather really must have called or bought the ticket for the paparazzi to come in with them. But I have to say, I'm a conspiracy theorist about this. You know me. I'm the last person standing on this one. Heather said, I didn't call the paparazzi into Disneyland, and I didn't wink at anyone. And I think she's getting out on a verbal technicality here. I still think that Heather made someone contact the paparazzi on her behalf to film that photo of her and Terry.
Yeah, but Katie, whether or not you believe that to be true, Katie will have to realize it wasn't worth it. Because she's ultimately, she's like, I didn't wink at anyone. I didn't make any under the table deals. She's like, but actually, why do you even care? Like, she's like, forget the details. Why do you give a shit? And why are you trying to ruin my life?
Yeah, but we can't pull on the why do you care thread. Because, you know what I mean? People say, why do I care about Whitney selling garbage on Prism from Alibaba and marking it up 10 times and selling complete shit to, and deceiving people who might buy that garbage? It's like, if we say the why do you care, we lose a lot in this universe, in my opinion.
I guess it's more like, I don't even know you is the better point.
Strategically, it was horrible, and Heather has well within her right to say, why the hell did you bring this up? Why do you care? It's not a big deal. In Katie's defense, she said, I didn't think you'd be that mad about it. And it's like, okay, well, obviously that wasn't true. Then Heather gets her
back to the point which I'm still kind of confused about, of like the Gina thing, because Katie apologizes to Gina for thinking or believing that it was a setup, and Gina is still standing by like, I told you not to say it. So like I'm still confused about how the whole thing happened. Like Tamra tried to throw Gina under the bus and say it was a setup. Gina's like, I tried to tell you not to say it.
Tamra was like what's the right, like Tamra made this worse. Tamra led Katie astray. She led Katie down the wrong path. She goes, I think what I smell is a setup. And then Katie said, I'm so new to this franchise, I didn't know what the fuck was going on at this point. I believed Tamra that this was more mysterious and deeper than it really was. I sort of believe Gina now that she didn't want this for the most part to last this long this season. Well, then this is when now it's, I mean, the heat's on Katie. They're turning up the heat. Heather goes, but you've been falsely accusing me of having a paparazzi at Disneyland because you're used to falsely accusing people, aren't you? And Shannon goes, what does that mean? And everybody's like, what? And then we find out the bombshell of all bombshells. What did you think of this?
It was crazy. I was like, okay, so the thing that I had seen teased online was mostly people going after Emily and Heather for claiming that the police, like for assuming that the police would never lie. That's like the first I saw of it, which I'm like, yes, like I will always take a police statement with a grain of salt every time. But the version of and again, it feels strange to potentially side with a rageful man over a woman with children in her car. So who knows? There's probably some version in between or whatever. But I'll just say that the version that was in the statement or like the police report that was in the gossip column or whatever had a lot more detail and made a lot more sense than what Katie was saying.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly my thoughts. Katie says, this rage-filled asshole was swerving around me and spinning circles around me in the road, screaming, I'm going to say it, screaming, fuck you, bitch. And then wouldn't let her leave. She went off the side of the road and he wouldn't let her leave and he was filming her. It's like, you just described an absolutely insane person who ruined your life and ruined your day completely. And then Heather goes, Emily and Heather are both going, you can tell your story, but let's just say we kind of have heard the whole thing and we're going to let the truth be known. Instantly, when Heather brings up, or Emily, I forget who brings it up, that she was texting and driving with 3 kids in the back, and this guy was triggered because he saw a mom texting on her phone while driving on a highway. Immediately, the story just gets full color. Yeah. And then I think she had a Karen moment where he screamed at her or flipped her off. She got so enraged that she did follow him home because no cop is going to write the wrong location where they were. That is the most easily verifiable thing. And it sounds like Katie didn't deny that they were out front of his house. She goes, I didn't know where we were. Like, how would I have known where he lived? It's like, it said he was arrested in front of his neighbors, out front of his home.
Right.
So
it sounds like he flipped out on her. She got pissed, was like, oh, hell no, followed him. Then was it her that called the cops or he called the cops? Somebody called the cops.
She called the cops because he was filming her. It's like that thing where, you know, it's like they're assaulting me because they're filming me. So she called the cops. They completely believed Katie's story, tackled this guy to the ground, tased him, arrested him. And then when they heard the true story, they let him out of jail.
And then there was like going to be a court date about it, but the summons apparently got delivered to her ex's house, who she didn't live with anymore, which Gina kept being like, wait, like if you get served, they serve you, which I don't know if that's true for like testifying at like a court. Like I feel like I don't know. I guess, can people comment? Do you know? Like, I know when you get served, they like, you got served. You know what I mean? Like, it does have to be your physical self. But, so I'm curious about that. But she claims she never got the summons. And so she didn't go because she was homeless at the time. And so then it made her like automatically guilty because she didn't show up to the court date. And Emily is like, there's always a story.
Yeah.
And Andy tries to call out Heather a little bit. He's like, you told me in the dressing room that you didn't want today about being about digging up dirt. And she was like, I'm not digging. It's all over the news.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I was just thinking, like, can you imagine being indignant with someone after you were just busted, like, FaceTiming or texting while you're driving 3 kids around, and then you get so pissed at the person who got mad at you that you follow them home?
Dude, road rage is, like, wild.
Yeah. I only have it every day or so. Then... Well,
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. If there's anything
Emily
more.
wants more blood.
I thought that was just a wild thing that I knew nothing about, in Katie's past. And then you're right. It goes even deeper. And Heather, after this, I don't even know how much you want to touch on it because it's pretty dark, horrible shit.
Yeah.
And Heather even says, she goes, I didn't want to bring that stuff up. The kids' custody. Emily really wanted to bring that into evidence against Katie.
I know. I love Emily's legal hat really comes into play on this episode, which the next segment is about Ryan and his legal woes, which she's like killer on that. She's really helpful.
It's amazing. Is there any other attorney castmate? Like Emily is like, I mean, the context that she provides is amazing.
I know, and she's like happy to do it. Like she's really interested in shining light, but basically she wants to make Katie eat shit about her custody because at one point she lost both physical and legal custody. And Emily kept harping on like, it's one thing to lose physical custody, but to lose legal custody, you really have to do something horrific. Like, how did that happen? And she has to just be like I didn't have anywhere to live and I was trying to get my life back together. And it was just kind of sad. But it was like, I think it's fucked up to make her feel bad about that, but it does like shine light. She seems so together. Mm-hmm. Like she seems very like, I don't know, like her life is like organized, like her relationship is good. Like she has a good relationship with like her daughter and like she seems very like successful and like organized. So when all of this shit gets brought up, you're like, are you like completely different than I thought?
Yeah, I mean, imagine me. I was singing Katie's praises, saying she's getting a raw deal here, and yeah, this was some shocking stuff to learn. I think Little Turtle Cuties and Villa Rosa VIPs, you can like read into it. There was like some cheating allegations and some fucked up shit that happened in that marriage, but didn't need to go there, I don't think. But you're right. It just kind of like provides more context for Katie, and I agree completely. I guess we should have known when she commented on a Turtle Time clip and then deleted it that something deeper was going on. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's get into this Ryan stuff.
This is great.
Yes. I'm just going to tell you, we have 10 minutes to cover this.
Okay, great. You do the roundup, and I'll provide some additional context. You tell me. But I thought this was an amazing reveal as well. It gets so much deeper into the Ryan Ohtani shit.
I know, and it was helpful because I knew basically what it was about, but I did need it explained further, and it was kind of shocking. So basically, Jen says that this had happened like 7 months previous that he was working with the FBI, and that what she was upset about was that she was sad that she thought her being on the show was giving him unwanted attention, and bringing his name was brought up more than it would have been otherwise, which I don't think is true. He's like one of like the 3 names like in the thing.
That guy went on the show, Matt or whatever.
Exactly.
That guy went to the finale party. He's like obviously not worried about
like,
being in the spotlight.
About it.
Yeah.
And Jen seems to have like a misunderstanding or like a naivete about what is going on, because she's like, he didn't snitch on his friend. Like, that's his best friend. And everyone's like, what do you think cooperating with the FBI to get immunity is? Like, obviously he gave them some dirt to like get himself out of it. And she was like, what? Like, no. And then when she's explaining what the crime was or whatever, she was like, Matt couldn't use his own account because he has Bank of America. And I was like, what kind of like dumbass, like 16-year-old explanation is that? Like Bank of America, like we're talking about like using like poker chips and like
it was like Juan, it was like Juan with Robin. He was like, I had to go to the hotel to let her into the room to use my credit card. It's like, you're just believing this fucking garbage.
So
Emily, you already said it. Emily is so good in this scene. She reads almost verbatim. She's not even reading. She knows the ins and outs of this case so well that they're highlighting her saying the exact evidence of what was in the reporting on this story, and she knows it almost perfectly. So Ohtani, I didn't know any of this, so this is new to me, and I'll be quick, but Ohtani's translator is a degenerate gambler. He owed so much money to an illegal bookie who was Ryan's friend, that guy Matt, I think his name is, that he had to dip into Ohtani's money. How, Ohtani's worth, I'm sure, so much money.
16 million.
Yep. And to pay his gambling debts off. And then the bookie had to launder that Ohtani money through casinos, and he used Ryan's accounts and a bunch of casino, whatever this fucking shit is at casinos, resort
and
credit.
Chonga.
And they had to launder it physically by gambling with the money. It's like they got like a huge, like they got play money. They just wanted to use Ohtani's money to just go wild in Vegas. And Ryan is directly implicated. It's in his account. So that's why he is ratting on his friend. He is cooperating fully. And that's why he is able to say he's not involved in the case anymore. Because he's ratting on Matt.
Right. Because I'm like, that is criminal. Like, he took 32 trips to Vegas to wash this money. And I'm like, that is like, you're a party to the crime, which is why then I think at one point Shannon's like, is it okay for her to talk about all of this? And Andy's like, he has immunity. And Tamara's like, full immunity? Because like, they're kind of like saying, I mean, I guess they're just reading basically what was in the articles and stuff. But like, there was like $12 million lost. Like, I'm like, yeah, that's like the shadiest shit you've ever heard. Like taking stolen money, gambling with it, taking your winnings as chips, cashing them out. Like there's no way that he wouldn't be in trouble unless he was getting like immunity.
And then Gina's like, Jen, I know that you think that this all makes sense to you and that it didn't directly involve Ryan, but like I'm worried for you going on those plane trips and like staying in the hotels with potentially like illegally, obtained funds or whatever. I want to ask, what do you think Matt, an illegal bookie, does when Ohtani's translator owes him $16 million and you can't use the government or any means to get that money back? I mean, we're getting into like criminal territory here. I mean, what happens? What do illegal bookies do when they need to get money back?
How scared was he that he stole money from Ohtani? It's giving like Goodfellas, a casino, like cutting a pinky off.
Totally. It's total casino vibes. And then Jen, as Emily is like reading the specifics, you can just tell that Jen has heard the Ryan side of the shit, didn't want to look into it.
Yeah. She's like, his name was just on the account. And I'm like, no.
Bank of America wasn't allowing for accounts to be created that day. So obviously he had to get the Resorts World Market account or whatever.
Right. Like, if that was true, like, there could be an innocent version where Matt had all this shit going on and he has a business account with somebody and he unwittingly used that account and like sullied it, and then the other person is like, what the fuck, like why did you use our joint account to do this stuff? But they were in full partnership, and Jen knows that this man is literally a bookie, so like what is she defending? Like he didn't do anything. And I'm like, what part of this doesn't sound illegal as fuck to you?
Yeah, I think the technicality is that Ryan says this is legal in Vegas and it's not legal in California, and maybe some funds were used in California, so it becomes an actual crime because it's not taking place only in the confines of Las Vegas where it's legal. Who knows? But regardless, Jen does not have the full grasp of this. Ryan is much more implicated in this than I originally thought. And we get it kind of, obviously to be continued. I mean, they are just scratching the surface of this season. It started out so great. So if you haven't watched Orange County, the reunion part 1, you got to. This was amazing. And then let's start, unless you have anything to add, let's start winding down because I know we have a hard out here. We burnt the morning oil.
No, but that was I'm glad that that got that much coverage. The reunion's actually the perfect place for it because then you can get to the nitty gritty, whereas if it's covered on the show, it might get lost in the sauce. But I'm looking forward to, if the first part was that good, usually the first part isn't that good. So I think the upcoming parts will be really good.
And I think your prediction was spot on that Ohtani's translator might be one of the guests, on the couch for one of the parts. So yeah, that was, that's great. And I'm just going to say, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of Turtle Time. I hope you found merit within it. If you did, and you need even more Turtle Time in your life, Amy and I have a little thing called the Villa Rosa VIP program on Patreon. You go to Turtle Time Patreon, you become a Villa Rosa VIP if you join our program, and you get access to an entire archive of 90 episodes where Amy and I have been recapping Vanderpump Rules from the very beginning. There's so much content there, and it just costs $5 a month, and you get to join the beautiful, wonderful Villa Rosa VIP community.
It's true, especially the way that the news is about to go for the next 4 years. You might need a little dumb stuff in your ear to make you laugh and distract yourself.
People, Villa Rosa VIPs really do say, this provides comfort, and I'm re-listening to old episodes that I've already listened to, and I'm like, I am so glad that Amy and I have actually created something that even spreads joy for even 1 second in somebody's life. So it's really nice to hear.
I'll also do a shout out to our merch that we sell on Etsy that you can find in our Instagram bio and stuff like that, because the holidays are coming up and we have some fun stuff on there for your fellow Bravo friends and family that I would say make the perfect gift, if I do say so myself.
Is there someone that loves Craig Conover in your life and you want to award them for Christmas with a shirt that has his face all over it?
Yeah, a Jiggy the Pomeranian prayer candle, honorary of his legacy. I think so.
There's so much fun stuff at the Turtle Time merch shop. I'm glad you highlighted that. And then lastly, I will just beg and ask, if you like this episode, please review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you can review a podcast, because that bumps us up in the charts and people know that they might get something good if they ever peek into the Turtle Time universe. So all that to say, thank you so much for being here. Amy and I are going to go about our Friday. This is going to come out on the day, so it's going to be piping hot, and we're going to say goodbye to you now, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.